Everyone, my name is Michael Larry, President and CEO of NATO. Thanks for coming this afternoon to talk about the importance of the global film marketplace.
Here. I'll start out with some introductory comments, then I turn it over to my colleagues who are the experts in international to talk and then answer any questions from me. The international box office is a vitally important for our industry. Last year accounted for $25 billion of the $33.5 billion global tape. Around the world, you're seeing flourishing local film industries that not only make great and globally accessible films, but also create jobs and drive local economies. 2023 is a prime example of the impact of the international cinema, with motion pictures like Anatomy of a Fall, Zone of Interest, The Boy and the Heron, and Godzilla -1, gaining not just critical acclaim and award recognition, but also capturing the humanity of movie fans around the world. Early in my career, I was told that movies are the way that America talks to the world. Older now, and hopefully a bit wiser, I believe that movies are the way the world talks to each other. When we talk about the theater being a place for everyone, that does not just mean in the United States. Magic at the theatrical experience has no geographical boundaries. My responsibility as NATO, like that of all of my fellow sector leaders, is to support and promote the entire exhibition industry, to tell our story completely. That cannot be done effectively without recognizing and celebrating the undeniable warts and leadership of international cinema. I'm pleased to be here today with my colleagues from UNIC, the Global Cinema Federation, to discuss international exhibition. I want to introduce Chair of the GCF, Alejandro Ramírez of Cinepolis, Laura Houlgatte, the CEO of UNIC, Phil Clapp, who is the CEO of the UK Cinema Association, President of UNIC, and also Jane Hastings of EVT, who very soon will be stepping into the very big shoes of Alejandro and Ray Lucia. So with that, Alejandro, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Michael. I'll need the 12 coming and the NATO for opening this space to talk about the state of globalization. And it's so benefited at this opportunity to present to you how Garrett could hear some, and also just so you could hear your questions, engage in some of the conversation. So last year, the overall box offices, Mike already mentioned, they closed at a good and healthy $34 billion, and that is a growth of 31% vis-a-vis the previous year. We decompose this $34 billion to domestic and international. $9 billion were delivered for domestic box office, that is US and Canada, and $25 billion is the international box office. If we further decompose that, $7.7 billion of the 25 international came from China, and 70.3 billion came from other targets around the world. So the growth of the domestic box office last year compared to the previous year was 21%, and the growth of the international box office was 35%. It's quite remarkable how fast and the international box office has grown in the past several decades. Go back to 1970, in 1970 only 20% of the theater box office was international, but even being domestic. By 1990, the international part of the global box office had grown to 40%. By the year 2000 to 50%, and by the year 2020 to 70%. Last year, 2024, 73% of the global box office comes from the international side, and the 27% from these. We just saw that Gower Street estimate for 2024 grew by $1 billion, from 31.5 billion to 32.3 billion. That is still 3% below 23, but still pretty good, considering the impact of the strokes. So it's only right now the estimate for juries that this year the box office would be 32.3 billion. And if we look at the growth by DGs, in 23, we saw that the North American box office grew 27% vis-a-vis previous year. The European box office also grew 27%, vis-a-vis the previous year. And Asia grew 33%. South America grew less 8%. And in the moment that I'll talk about some markets, but some South American markets have been affected by lack of local content. Unfortunately, this 2034, because some of those like Brazil are pretty much better. There's been a number of local productions that have been doing very well this year. 2024 got off to a slow start in January, February, but March and April were doing much better. The year-to-date, the global box office year-to-date is 7.5 billion. And movies like Dune 2 have already accumulated 661 million and gold. The global box office. Kung Fu Panda 4 with 410 million. Godzilla versus Kong 361 million. And even surprises like the romantic comedy Anyone But You, massive more than 260 million. Those are very good news. And especially your genres that had been sort of absent from the marquee in the past few years, like rom-coms are coming back, and Criminal Matrix is a great example that audiences around the world want to see all genres, or only, big action movies, but also rom-coms, horror, family films. Even the biopic Bob Marley, One Love, has done over $176 million to the global box office. Another thing that many of you probably heard this morning if you were there for the presentation of our global distribution by Veronica Kwan. Last year, non-franchise films dominated the box office, and that's also very good news. The top three films were non-franchise films. Barbie, amassing $809 million just on the international box office, though of course booked well over $1 billion. Mario, only the international box office, 707 million, and of another 639 million at the international box office, and counting probably with the Japanese spoiler surpassed the billion dollars global. And of course, it's not only American films that are having the success international. We also saw a lot of Buwani presentations, like for instance, Japanese anime is now as important or even more important outside of Japan than it is making more than what it's making in Japan or really outside of Japan. In favorable cases, like it's already Latin America, Japanese anime is very, very important right now, and it's very successful. Feels like Demon Slayer, that is Slayer 2, but -1. They just did Waterfall. Well, another Waterfall anime feels like One Herring also worked really well. And just a final word to say that again, 2024 is off to a good start for local content. In Brazil, that had a week, 23 local content so far in the first 3 months of the year. 23% of all box office has come from domestic Brazilian releases. Feels like Mina Irma e Eu had over 2 million admissions, and Nosso Lar to 1.8 billion admissions, or Farofeira 1.6 million admissions. So that's off to a good start to a country that has in the past done very well in local content. They have been suffering. And now it's Indonesia also local content. The first 3 months of the year accounts for 30% of the box office. The second highest Indonesian free of all time was released this year. Aga 9, it's an Indonesian comedy, becoming the second highest film eventually for Indonesian films. South Korea also, Exuma has done over $88 million in it this year in global box office year to date. And it ranks as the 10th film this year among the top global films, South Korean film. I find it just a little mention of your Mexico films. That's also has seen an improvement in local content this year. In the pandemic, Mexican content went to less than 3%. Last year, we already achieved 5% of the domestic box office. This year is already at 7% I count. So those are just a few examples of domestic or specific countries, important countries that have an improvement in local content. And finally, just a final word, last year, 2023, some countries already surpassed, 90% of the pre-pandemic admissions or pre-pandemic box office. So a bunch surpassed 80%. I would say, is 4 countries surpassed 90%: France, Mexico, the Netherlands, and India. India having the fastest recovery was already at 23. It achieved 99% of its pre-pandemic box office level, which is literally they're back. And of course, it has to do with a lot of Bollywood and regional Indian films that had a very successful run, especially in the second half of 2023. Films like Pathan that also did well internationally in other places, for we have India diaspora to Canada, the UK, the US, East Africa, the Middle East. It did very well. And so it's good to see that some countries are already reaching close to the pre-pandemic box office levels. And with that, I would like to turn it over to my colleague Laura Houlgatte, CEO of UNIC.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks everyone for being here today. So I'm the CEO of the International Union of Cinemas. Actually, the best way to describe ourselves is we are the European League. We have 39 colleagues, that's about 43,000 screens. As Alejandro mentioned, 2023 was a very good year for European cinema. Box office statements of more than 7 billion euros and 977 million admissions. And what a big deal of the success was driven by strongest idols, so including Mario, Oppenheimer, and Barbie. Most European markets also had their own national releases that were extremely successful, from French Musketeers to Italian Dramedy to Norwegian Christmas surprises. Now, we encourage you to check that out. And the successes we saw in 2023 and what we saw as the start of the year with Due To and with Kung Fu Panda proved yet again that cinemas continue to set records and create a halo of buzz. So basically, theatrical works. It works for everyone. That's the message of GCF wants to carry, for audiences, from the industry, for the creatives. And the key to continued success is a solid pipeline. Content is essential with a constant and consistent flow of strong, diverse, well-marketed titles targeted to all the listeners. And George and just said this just before this, we're all hardwired for stories. And speaking of diversities, Europe is a leader. In some countries, national titles can account for up to 35% of the box office. 35%. So that's more than just the itinerary hate museum business. Europe also offers the widest choice when it comes to the cinema experience itself, with a very attractive and diverse composition. That is significant and can give customers back made or by cinema operators, so multiplexes, to one-screen cinema, to municipality cinema, outhouse independent. They're all invested. That can be peer-back, that can be a FMB providing dining experience, but also initiatives like National Cinema Days, yoga sessions before screenings, meeting sessions during screenings. I'm not making this up. We've just published recently an innovation exhibition brochure. You can find it from our website. And we're describing all these initiatives that have been implemented by cinemas in our territories. And last but not least, to come back to what Michael mentioned, cinemas create tens of thousands of local jobs and they drive local economies. They are the heart of our communities, and they're also a place that seek culture. And especially in Europe, the cultural component is absolutely key. It's a cultural space, and it's a space where cultural phenomena are being born. And it's actually recognized by national governments themselves, because in some countries, they actually support cinematic, financially supporting them. So no one here denies the power of domestic. We know what it is. But to quote Charles Rifkin, who was in that latest box office publication, as he said, our industry is much more than just a Los Angeles news.
So I guess we know both have questions. So I'll just
one more thing that I forgot to mention about the rules federation. We represent a significant size of the dual box office. The 13 member companies that are the executive committee is composed by the 13 largest exhibition companies in the world and the two largest trade parties, NATO and UNIC. So we represent dozens of companies. So there's 30 companies that serve as members of the executive committee together. We operate 53,000 screens around the world. And last year, we had 1.6 billion admissions for our scenes. Something that's important, if I could be mentioned, I think it's important, just the 13 companies in the executive committee survey that we did as how much we're investing, or how much did we invest in 23 and we're investing in 24 for refurbishments, technology, and new builds, capital expenditures. We're investing over $2 billion. So despite the huge financial impact of the pandemic, and the fact that we're already recovering from the pandemic, we're still making big efforts to keep the cinema going experience already alive, got well, and we're investing a little bit over half of this, so a little bit over $1 billion in refurbishments, about $600 million in technology, and about $400 million in new builds. So there are still, new cinemas being built around the world. So that's the entry part. And like also Veronica Pons said this morning, this of theatrical apparently, I don't know it's true. The theatrical is really the engine of is where a movie comes to life, and then it takes on, and you but the different windows and stays on for years. But really the driving engine is theatrical. So with that, let's open it up for questions.
Yes, Keith. Is there a genre that does particularly well globally versus domestically in America?
I think some genres that do very well internationally action does well everywhere, domestically and international, and horror too. Horror does well here and travels well around the world. But some action movies, some franchises, like let's say Fast and Furious franchise that is successful in the world, internationally it overperforms. It's a franchise that people love in many markets, so it performs proportionately better than the domestic. But there are, also family films travel well everywhere. They do well here. They do well on World Super Mario. In many markets in Latin America, and most markets in Latin America was the #1 film of 2023, surpassing Barbie and Otma. Right, so many markets, animation is or family films are even bigger than an action. So just for something everyone are it.
So are you all talking about this sort of specific experiences that happens from market to market, right? And Alejandro, we were talking about investment. I don't know if you guys share some kind of intelligence, is from market to market, like what kind of info do you share, when you are trying to create better strategies or trying to benchmark, from another markets to say, hey, they are making meeting sessions before the screenings. What should we do, Have before the screening?
I suspect there's a difference if you're a company or if you look across the member territories that you're a trade body. Clearly, we represent, you represents, and Mike represents companies that are in competition with each other. So it would be a very short route for our jobs where we'd start sharing trade secrets between companies. But I guess Alejandro and Jamie can talk about actually sharing experiences across the scale pretty further.
But I guess a lot of this type of conventions like CinemaCon, Cine Europe, Cine Asia are places where we all gather not only to see the slates of the distributor, but to learn from each other, to share best practice. If we went to the panels this morning for International Day, we learned, the things that exhibitors are doing around the world, and we've all taken ideas, from all of us, and I remember years back when we had just developed our family-friendly or children's stream, we call it Cinepolis Junior, and in a presentation from a Universal executive, he was saying some of the most innovative things that he'd seen that year about what he could have on the screen, and I was like, oh my god, no, it's where we just developed in already off the screen. But it's great to see that all of this is cross-fertilization, that we're all sharing and learning from each other. And Australia was one of the pioneers in luxury cinemas, and now it took a long time. Australia has been doing it for 2 decades. In Mexico, we're doing it for 2 decades, and in the US, it's been the last 10 years. And it's now sort of the way to go, premium cinemas. But it's all this cross-fertilization of learning, and a lot of us, are around the table of the GCF. Of course, we're many competitors, but at the end of the day, we're all colleagues, and we all care for the health company.
I think that's a very important point. I mean, if we are my territory is Australia, New Zealand, and Germany, so it's our job to maintain this as looked at with animal in this gear and to understand innovation in Europe and innovation in Asia.
And I think we're all compelled to come up with the next concept.
Of course, we all support and believe in the large screen premium formats, the ILAs, the 40X, the ScreenX. They're an incredible part of the experience, and customers demands those experiences, and then we'll pay for those experiences. But also, each of our companies are coming up with our own immense experiences. So in the family segment, I know that Cinepolis have a great family offering where you can slide aside and have some playtime. In Australia, we have our own similar banner offer. Lights up, parents don't hesitate, your children are running around, they're not sitting down, they're not a bad parents. Really understanding consumer behaviour and still giving the caregiver some time out. Our luxury cinemas, and if you look at the Middle East, they're going to the next level. So whilst it started in our markets, we're going, well, what is the end of luxury? Like, how much further can we go? And we're finding that we can continue to innovate those experiences, and customers are responding really well. Customers want premium cinema experiences because customers want experiences. And so globally, there was so much great innovation going on. And like any industry, everyone wants to be best. So we take a little bit of that, try and add a little bit of our own and make it even better. So it's a healthy place for innovation.
So I've been hearing a lot about the need for more movies backed on data, and that's clear to me, but I can't make any movies. What do our colleagues in the studio side of the equation say, or what's their reaction when they hear this data?
Well, they're all also committed to boosting more. We all got affected by the pandemic in different ways. The pandemic coincided with the sort of birth of streaming. Well, not with the birth, the streaming was probably with the launch of many streaming platforms from the studios. And so there's been a lot of disruption in the ecosystem in the past 5 years. To add to that, of course, the last two strikes sort of paralyzed the industry for 5 months last year, and that's impacted some of the slate for this year. Yet we're confident, that still we have a solid slate this year, and that next year is going to be great because some movies have moved to 25. So 25 already had a slate that is the reiterated by additional titles. But I think all studios are doing their best to increase output and also explore different genres. I also like the versus one. They've been really fitting content in every genre, and I think that's very important. I think some genres have sort of moved to screening and are moving back to the big screen, like some of the rom-coms that we mentioned, if anybody wants to.
Yeah, last week, the majority of members of the executive said, so the two trade bodies and the larger operators, we did a random meetings with all the US major studio, and then Gary, key part on this was around bringing more commerce, for more diverse cuts.
And it was a receptive audience. They actually understand that. But they, as Alejandro said, they were hit by the pandemic, they were hit by the space. They've been hit by some of the consequences of the pandemic in terms of the increased costs, production costs of talent, several lockdowns in post-production, etc., etc. So, we genuinely think, believe that they're going as quickly as they can. We'll be like, Bortaf is absolutely worried. But I think we're in lockstep with them in terms of the desire to get more of their films in front of the visiting. So what you've also seen clearly, post-pandemic, in the last few years, is the emergence of Apple and Amazon and A24 and other big coming in and adding to content decks. And in many of the territories, certainly in UNIC covers, and they're saying, well, the territories, the girl, similar federation codes. There's also the local comp, which is a Christy or our link. So I suspect that while the major studios will continue to be on a lap of cables, it will be a more diverse mix you'd see going forward of local content or content from, large organizations, large companies outside the traditional US studios, but also other players. So, that's really important for everyone that we represent, because there's not a single kind of magic genre of film or size of film or type of film which hits all the audience. So you need to be able to pull on as many different screws you can to get the audience. So clearly, going back now we lost ancient history, but one of the benefits of the digitization of the sector was the ability to be much more flexible in terms of programming. So I think there's a great deal of confidence, always the kind of when I always say a desire to move quickly, we probably can to get to that point where the content is back to where we need to be.
Just to add to the Film Nation, I think also our term of content has grown over the past year. Still, a relatively small portion of the MDO French office, but it's a growing portion. So we already mentioned Japanese anime, so concerts. We started doing concerts a long time ago, but pandemic they picked up in an important way. With K-pop, Korea pop has become really, really important. Bands like BTS and Blackpink and others. Then last year also we experimented with Taylor Swift's concert with a great success, Beyonce's concert. We also had Coldplay's concert from Buenos Aires and several others. So I think as sporting events is spot. As career years, years back, the FIFA World Cup from Qatar. We will show the World Cup film coming with the US and Mexico. So the sporting events, anime, the music events, opera, they all contribute to grow. And if in our case, it's about 5% of the IL box office. As I said, it's a niche content, but it comes, if you're well received when, especially when you have a couple of weeks with not enough blockbuster releases, but you have a concert or you have a sporting event that really helps. So I think that's something that complements the content that we're getting from the studios.
I think there's another really important variable that came out of the discussions we've had with studios is that might not have been true 3 or 4 years ago is there's a increasing recognition by people in distribution. There's something that people in exhibition have always felt to know, and that is if you're interested in making money on your film, that the films that start exclusive theatrical window, they're more successful as they go through the distribution food chain. And I think that, in a lot of instances, that seems the talking point of exhibition. But the truth is you ask studios that, they recognize that. And that, I think, is what's driving what Phil and Alejandro are talking about their desire to create more stuff. Success begets success. And so that, I think, is a really important thing because it goes to the state of mind in the studios that they understand the singular importance of starting with an exclusive theatrical window.
So aside from China and India, what are some other markets that might say have a mature global film industry that really supports theaters when there's shortfall and all of that?
So Japan is huge. Now more than 50% of Japanese box office is local content. It's close to 60%. So Japan's one. Indonesia is also very important, as I mentioned. Visual was 30% Deutsche box office this year. It's already Deutsche content. So Indonesia is every year producing more and more local content. Turkey is close to 50% of local content, and of course South Korea. South Korea is also of the +% local content. So those are some.
And the little front, Europe, France is the big country where local content is up to 40% of the box office. So it's got Denmark, which is a really strong serial success video communities. Norway. I'm curious to mention Italy because it's an interesting case. Italy was a poetry which was quite worrying this COVID because in 2022 we're still lagging way behind other countries in terms of recovery. And it had a massive nick last year, thanks to Oppenheimer and Barbie, of course, but also to a local title called C'è ancora domani, which has the actually more and better number than Oppenheimer and Barbie together. So it's an absolutely credible success story. Almost every Italian that heard of C'è ancora domani was doing enough series.
The country was the first to build the intelligence into lockdown, and score May 2022 were first covered store mandatory habits, so they were last out of kind of restrictions in the cities.
And also Germany, yes, it did at least 30% is less interruption, and that has rebounded quite quickly. So fucking about it.
Guys, how do we view you? Are you a think tank? You talk about person. Are there going to be any concrete proposals? We have calls.
Clearly, you're a reference or a resource. How do you regard yourself?
We are a federation, and our goals are a federation. So we're sort of, the association of exhibitors from around the world that has similar concerns, similar objectives. But yes, one thing I would do is to try to put together information, analyze information, for instance, on piracy and movie theft, and in some cases produce papers that we share amongst members, or some cases that you share also shooters or in the press. But yeah, we do some analysis and it's like in the national trade body that of the work.
It's also a source of information for studios about customers, since exhibitors are closest to customer. And most of us have the large majority of moviegoers in our databases. We understand what they're excited to see, what they're going to know about.
They'll purchase, how they purchased it, will they come back again, will they come back again? So all of that kind of information
or insights is really important for feeding into studios on other marketing campaigns at it.
What journalism said, more people saying that, chasm. So we also see ourselves to have more feature to deliver more insights because of process. So.
You talked a little bit about the kind of almost parasitic relationship of something that goes to theaters then does better when it clicks streaming. And what we don't really see is things come from streaming back to theaters all in there. Is that a conversation that you guys are having with streamers to do something like these, theatrical concerts where it creates a community atmosphere where you're not just watching it at home, so that go there. Something like The Mandalorian, new episode, which you guys avid Star Wars fan base who would love to be able to have a water cooler moment with other fans right as that episode ends, and hosting those types of things in gears as they launch on street.
Yes, well, so and not many was mentioned earlier today in one of the presentations as well. Some films, talk about the relationship between theatrical and streaming. Some films that are produced for streaming, when they saw that they were, very good quality, like let's say Smile from Paramount, it was going to go straight to Paramount Plus. And that they said, wait a sec, this is a good movie that's put in the theaters first, and they did great success. So there's other examples of the film from Hanson, for instance, like Air, also were produced theatrically around the world. So there are those examples, and of course, we saw last year. I remember Cabo did this in theaters, going from Napoleon to Putz, Kids of Traun to Houlgatte, just recent titles from Alpha. So we do see titles, that were conceived originally for a streaming platform, that they were released to theaters first. I don't know if anybody else was.
Well, I'd just say Smile and Mean Girls, the two current bitches Smile, they make $300 million in the United States. Those were introduced for streaming by far. And people at Paramount sat down and said that they test everything. Said there's something there, and they started to see those as theatrical movies. I think that speaks to, if you're in the theater, there's something special about what you put together, and I think that's the basis of why those movies do well further down the line. So that's an example of just two movies that resulted in just to be States $300 million.
But I think we're talking about kind of eventizing.
Like episodic, yeah, like so Game of Thrones finale. I said, the absolutely is a desire to do that, but the rights issues have so far defeated, other companies that talked about now. But it's an absolutely logical progression of these things. We will always say, very few, if any, films on streaming are off-screw minutes. But clearly, some of those climaxes of some of the big series absolutely are, and they should be seen big screen enjoyed in the way of other, most cool stuff. But not so far. But I know those conversations continue.
Yeah, and just an example, is Demon Slayer from Japan. That was the Demon Slayer 2. They were just, the two chapters of the series put together a big stream, and they sold over $100 million, and then you can continue to watch the rest of the episodes on stream. So that's the truth. It is possible as well.
And it's been done by someone, I think, all through for they've done it in Borsa.
I believe that was Renal's memories from Disney, right from Lucas saw a few days ago, for a film that's coming out in May of 22. Lifegate has with Sabina was launched first at the Mandalorian as Grappies. Yep, 26 and 26 in May of 26. And that is gonna, go to the big screen. So that's, again, there's the positive, synergies between two.
So, as you mentioned, talk about analyzing for the customers. During the arguments we made that, the customers, appetite has changed in terms of, talking about their jobs as that's, going back to the or. And you mentioned with Sherpa Rock, and stuff, and for damn little Marvel, even if you see probably definitely a decline to the point now that there's only one major release coming out this year, the studio. And can you kind of talk about what you expect German Belly meant by the film of this trend about properties that are not beginning to essentially the showtime in terms of like rom-com or previous year prior to early, but now getting huge success with like England But You and certain anime properties.
So what do I expect for these genres? Or
Yeah, like certain what you could predict in terms of like these leading franchises now are going into decline, and now the franchises that were declining like Bomb Rock Batch. Yeah, so
Let's start. So, cinema is a really interesting business, right? And it's a very hard business to draw trends in, because every year they release like pandas. So often, so what has happened in the past is cinema darlings aren't going to see rom-coms. That is because there were less rom-coms released in cinemas. Well, the other classic comment might be, families aren't doing this. Families and phantom box office stock not going to movies anymore. Well, actually, there was just fewer animated films released. So when you actually ask a movie star, which like people on this road, have your taste changed? Our customers want to see great films and movies. And often when you hear comments about franchise fatigue, it can actually be, and then all of a sudden one improves by now. Funny examples of that. It was the story. Customers go to the movie for a great story, to be immersed in it. And sometimes some of the franchise films aren't as good a story as the first one. Other times the story is better, and that continues. But there isn't, from our insights, customers are not saying we don't want to see that type of genre in the cinema. That is not what's happening. We get served slave content, and we're seeing records being set against a good film.
So I think the answer is, if it's a great film, doesn't matter what genre it is,
customers will come to me because
Charity actually asked my question or more flippant than I could. So I'll kind of play off of it. And that is, how does the GCF operate? I mean, each had their own, at least the pre-buys have their own offices with their own staffs, with their own remits and work the governance and their own numbers. Obviously, it's exhibitors are the exhibitors. But how does the GCF operate? Are there regular meetings? Are there, is there a staff? Are there offices? And then you talk a lot about the differences and similarities between each of the territories. But how do you kind of massage or handle the different interests, most of the geographic of your decisions? Because what was a priority to one group in one territory might not be a priority in other territories.
Your first question, we all would say we all have our their jobs. This is aviation, so we operate with just a few weeks of the year or the year. When we started cartoon and working in CinemaCon, it's here, it's Asia, it's pretty large conferences we have versus and the executive committee met physically once a year and then virtually a number of times. So that's what we're doing. We have a meeting of, we had yesterday a meeting of the executive committee and then of the advisory board. And then as W, we have a couple more meetings of the executive committee, and then one or two as well. Virtual office committees with the advisory board. So there's a Wilbur, you don't have committee staff. The past post the and we have supported the chair, and then the company that shares aspiration of and the vice chair, which in this case has been Jane, we provide for our company's resources to help with the analysis or to have the classifications or just with just pull together the units. So it's sort of like collaborative effort. And it's a chair, that is rotating from normally the shoring and Craig. So after this conference, his CinemaCon Jane stepping onto the door of chair, and Sean Gabo for CURCO Cinema stepping on as vice chair. So it is a hotelier the time that we have to do it purely that whatever resources can, and of course it's funded by all the members. So there's no fee for the advisory board members, which any company they want or any federation can join. We will fee and the folks never members of the who from the day-to-day work of the organization. And then another concern, what's this? Moscow, how do you balance between different? Well, we try to focus on areas that are of common interest for all the possible also, but there are things that are very specific. They should go through their own national trade associations. There's Nevo and the Universal Trade Association in Brazil, one in Mexico, one in India, one etc. But there's sometimes that the GCF has collaborated with local trade bodies to help it advance or stop some piece of legislation, let's say. Or we're trying to reopen cinemas around the world, and it was very important for us to reopen cinemas in New York City because the studios didn't want to release films until LA and New York were open, as if the world depended on those two cities. So we actually worked to put pressure on the authorities in New York City because restaurants have been open for almost a year, and yet cinemas were still closed. So we do work with specific things, or like we worked in Brazil for a legislation that we thought had not considered the interests of the theaters. So we do work supporting some local issues, but we tried overall to focus more on things that cut across the whole, like multi-theft, like theatrical exclusivity, like availability of content, technology driven as even as well.
I was pretty sure you would get a buzzword there. I'm curious about your thoughts on AI. You see it as a threat or a potential image vector?
Bit of so I guess that has been and the studios themselves are experimenting, testing, and seem to be embracing it in a way where it enhances creativity and supports the creativity. Seems to be a lot of adoption of just try if it works, it's going to enhance creativity, work with it. So we're quite excited at things by what we've heard coming out of the studios on embracing AI in different ways. And as exhibitors, of course, we're doing the same thing, but from more operational sense. I got getting across our databases, the insights, and we can market all of those things. So I think they are positive about inputs of AI.
Yes, what one example of, because I guess in one way or another, we'll be utilizing some AI tools, Loom, though, with ChatGPT and more large profiles, but there's like media operations, and even some very advanced CRMs, customer relations management. In the past, I remember we used to cluster together about 4 million loyal customers in Mexico or days, and we used to cluster them around 5 or 6 profiles. So according to different similarities, now we can do every customer via cluster in and of itself, because then it's set hundreds of thousands, or then it's specific, or focus promotions. Is that are specific to relevance to each customer, or that in the past, it was trial and error, trial fever. And so I think AI tools, what Jay said, can help us to be better, to have a closer and more relevant relationship with our customers.
Europe is a bit different on the creative side because the AI Act has just been adopted in research, and the idea is to reassure creators so that they continue to feel they were be valued or a bit worth we almost will contribute it with possibility to be part of the rules being negotiated in some parts of the year to ensure that the work of is preserved, celebrated.
I'm from Israel. I was just curious if we've seen any effect on your field from everything that's been going on in the Middle East or the war in Ukraine, for that matter. Have you seen any effect in your area?
No, the country that was box office strong the most last year was Russia. Compared to pre-pandemic level, it's a 50%, 52%. So that, of course, has to do with the fact, how part of the content and their countries, or I don't have the data for Ukraine, but Russia. And then, we'll have a better work to remember companies out there that technically COO operates importantly in Israel, and they don't have the information on their PD united by the law. I'm sure they.
We wish you touch with some motion their team. If talk to fill our area afterwards, and should touch with ass.
I was just curious. Everyone talks about the content. Does light have any impact on your audiences? I know many Americans who have stated, "Oh, Oppenheimer won Oscars, but I'm not going to see it because it's 3 hours long." Do you find that in Europe and Asia as well?
The length of the movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sure we can go, but in general, we've seen data, and actually there was a great article in The Economist a couple of weeks back, analyzing Europe for how over the past 30 years, the length of films has continued to increase, especially during and after the minutes earlier further. So yes, having films that are 3.5 hours or 3 hours, we have fewer number of shows today. So that affects us because we they do 2 or 3 shows rather than 4 or 5. And then it's also, especially with younger audiences, and there's a big attention deficit to the user. So used to immediacy like short, bites of information. Asking them to commit for 3 hours and 25 minutes, it's difficult. Yet you do have outliers of great films like Oppenheimer and Avatar 2 that did great in the box office with the, with the long movies and they still did great. But we all think that with series in general, we will like the shorter, that the better for the business.
Robert, you the two. With no receptor different cultural meaning and mandatory dictate. Certainly, brightest creators over here fight back reality. Of running cinema, the feedback which is big component for some rainy visions from customers around for team and main for usage. And there's a in my entire UK there's a lot of paper and 10mm issues. Because of that, intermissions are already feature unlocked to European territories. They have already went away, to be honest. So, it's a difficult area, but as Alejandro said it, the reality is that the very on front undoubtedly impacts the viability. It's just it's tough.
And it's also very cultural specific. Because like India, they're all 3 hours with Cherishi. They're designed that way. Yeah, people expect 3 hours.
Yes.
I want to kind of be me for a second here, and just say I'm pro streaming a bit, and you can't blame every film's failure on streaming, and say that just because a film debuts on streaming, it's an automatic failure versus debuting in the box office. Versus debuting in the theater, simply because hundreds of movies fail every single week that aren't on the streaming platform. So I don't think you just make that blanket statement. So that's one thing. But my main question was, do you think the push towards globalization, how does that impact creativity in terms of trying to appeal to a broader audience across regions?
So he's better. I think he's an improvement. I think the more voices or more perspectives and more creativity you have, you're gonna have more things that are gonna appeal to different people. I say that as someone part of our domestic industry, but we benefit for all the things that these folks are talking about because they drive interest in going to movies. They drive interest in learning about different cultures. Their movies, 2 movies I thought were spectacular last year were I'd be able to follow his own interests. And those were not American movies. And so I think it's a net flux to have these emerging, local film markets growing. I'm encouraged that. I think we need more of that. We frankly need more of that in America, where we get different voices in the United States doing so. To your point real quick about blaming streaming, I don't think that we're blaming streaming. There's 1,000 reasons that movies fail. And there's 1,000 reasons that movies succeed. If anybody has figured out what those are, to see what's on the right way, they have the gate beat. But the history of this industry is one where, every now and then, something that you think is a home run, let's use an American term, a home run, just doesn't work. And conversely, there's always surprises that capture the imagination. And, there's that great quote about no one knows that who knows anything. And that was made in the early 70s. I think it's still true today. So I don't think anybody blames streaming for the failure of movies on. And I've taken a very proactive approach in the United States in the sense that I get asked about streaming all the time. And I don't talk about it because that's about who I represent. I'm not against it. You want to watch streaming, knock yourself out. People would do 2 things, right? But I'm really focused on if people are interested in being in the theaters because I think that's a unique experience. So I don't think there's any benefit in us being anti-streaming or blaming streaming or stuff. That's just my...
No, I second that. I think I have no idea. Michael Sarah, what else? And said, anything to that line that we are blame streaming for anything. We think that movies succeed because they connect with the audience, and some movies fail because they don't find an audience to connect. So and that can happen in theatrical and industry. So I think it has to be with the merits of all you lost as graph flow.
I just add to that. Like, they call them moviegoers, but they're real people, right? It's everyone, Mr. Ryan and everybody you know. And that our most frequent moviegoers consume the most streaming content. In fact, those love content. So, yeah, it's complementary.
It's documentary, so it says there's surveys that have been presented in this convention in the past that show that avid moviegoers are also, like Jane said, able to consume more movies in different media. So not only they go to the movie, but they also watch it on their own plane, but they also download on their iPad for when they're on the road and they're on their watch platform. So all of us cinephiles, I guess we watch in every format, not including the big screen, which for many of us is the clear the best for our experience, if you.
Talked a lot about piracy, so to go back to, as it was mentioned by BL earlier today, and you mentioned Russia, so I guess I'll combine Russia and piracy. The exhibitors of the fund, it's not all exhibitors, but there are some exhibitors pirating content, Hollywood films to show them in their cinemas. So that's something World Cinema Federation has to deal. And what kind of work are you doing?
Yeah, you're not doing that because it's something new either for us that NES was hard sort of pirated films training. There's lots of progress doing war, but yeah, like us, so we're not real freedom. Only what we really saw in the script that we have a follower in a version of the and it's specifically all that case that what we are concerned is with the movie piracy. We use the NUSO database here the information, and it really has a very interesting analysis. You see, when you release a film in different markets, the number when you release a theatric, the number of illegal downloads release flat, because when you release it in any market, the premium video on demand, that's what creates a spike, because that's what allows pirates to have a pristine digital copy that they can produce limitless. So the nature of piracy today is global and it's digital. 10, 50 years ago, was first blood ago, and it was mainly driven by camcording. Not today. The main piracy is driven by when a film appears on premium video demand or any digital platform. That's why we stress the importance of the theatrical window. The window of theatrical exclusivity, because that was supposed the spike on piracy.
You would come to previous CinemaCons pre-pandemic, where there's this just right the dark area, and which was period to film leaving slowly and being made with a festival press with bachelor supply plus. You'd find what studios have done, and then you incinerate some studios by average big salaries. To really easily left one.
Answer you my question. So separate the trends and the numbers you are here too. I would tell the years, do you go back to certain studios out you live in that Crunchyroll and how they do moving this if you taught off the different markets they're not all coming in. So you approach sale that the direct how much the potential they be damaging themselves by this and such as that. But yet they continue to try and do argument to numbers. They're almost even might want to table time because of they'll do a release in Mexico, then they'll come to the United States or Japan release 3 months beforehand. So by the time it's America, it's already online because they why not go to the theater? Then the theater numbers in America is still great. So do you all kind of approach them ahead of time to kind of compare that a little bit?
Yes, and that was part of within this Phil shared that we had last week, the studios. There was one on fist on the table, as topic flats of a cigarette. That was a shop, and it's true, we're dropping it right on the when the movies release on little formats, there's a huge risk of almost immediate piracy. So that is leading with the theater. So that's why we've seen more and more do all these fears, they at night or just with a couple of weeks difference. But usually with the video on the band window postponed and before that's becoming more consistent and it's becoming more homogeneous.
That Spanish are like religious to it. It's like I'm avoiding it because it's the piracy is so on you wherever you go, but you're so dedicated to ones to support, but you're like ducking out 3 months, I guess, to avoid it. Cause that's hope is
Thank you so much.